Luther Concerning Rebaptism by Brian Harris. I thought I would take a short break from B.B. Warfield's, reading B.B. Warfield's paper, The Polemics of Paedobaptism, and start on this one. Luther Concerning Rebaptism, Brian Harris. Concerning rebaptism. 3 years after Luther hammered his 95 Theses to the Catholic Church in Wittenberg, thereby triggering the upheaval which led to the Reformation, he published his polemical treatise against Rome, The Babylonian Captivity of the Church, 1520. In this work, Luther takes issue with the sacraments of the Church under papal control. Not only had Rome invented new sacraments, but she had also distorted and corrupted those given by Christ. The papacy had turned into a system of coercion from birth to the grave. Well put. However, in his opening words in the section on baptism, Luther expresses his conviction that baptism, unlike the Mass, had been retained relatively free of superstition. Quote, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who according to the riches of his mercy has at least preserved this one sacrament in his church, uninjured and uncontaminated by the devices of men, and has made it free to all nations and to men of every class. He has not suffered it to be overwhelmed with the foul and impious monstrosities of avarice and superstition, doubtless having this purpose that he would have little children incapable of avarice and superstition to be initiated into this sacrament and to be sanctified by perfectly simple faith in his word." When reading this section on baptism, one will search in vain for any defense of infant baptism for the simple reason that it was not yet an issue. At this time in the Reformation, the enemy was the Roman Catholic Church, which had buried the gospel with its many corruptions. But that was very soon to change. Luther's forced absence had seen Wittenberg threatened by the chaos of Anabaptist radicalism. Only his return saved the day. Anabaptism, however, like Rome, continued to be a threat to the church. The word Anabaptism literally means re-baptism. All Anabaptists were united in their denial of the validity of infant baptism. They baptized and often rebaptized adults alone. The term Anabaptist covers a wide range of groups who were diverse in many of their core doctrines. Included among their ranks were Unitarians, anti-Trinitarians, and wild-eyed revolutionaries. Francis N. Lee describes the Anabaptists as, and states, "As to creation and providence, many were either anarchist or neo-Manichaean. Indeed, some were very lascivious and either adulterers or polygamists. Nearly all maintained a heretical neo-Gnostic Christology." Still do. Several claimed to be prophetic visionaries and or glossolalists, and more than a few were thoroughly communistic. Most were millenarian, fanatically predicting the imminent return of Christ, and nearly all of them taught both soul sleep and the final annihilation of the wicked, thus denying eternal punishment. Absolutely all of them were either antinomian or legalistic. Taken from Francis N. Lee, The Anabaptists and Their Stepchildren, Section 3. That's still the case as far as antinomian or legalistic goes. Although modern Calvinist Baptists are not guilty of the gross doctrinal errors of the Anabaptists, they continue to use many of the arguments employed by the Anabaptists against infant baptism. It's true. Frequently, one will also hear the assertion made in evangelical and Baptist churches that the Reformers unthinkingly and carelessly adopted Roman superstition. One argument I have heard from a dear friend of mine was, well, Luther couldn't be right about everything. Okay. However, such assertions demonstrate a failure to grasp key Reformation doctrines as well as ignorance of the clear refutations written by the Reformers. The Reformers did not adopt infant baptism because of superstition or tradition. They did so because they believed that the Bible teaches it. Whether modern Baptists agree with the Reformers' exegesis of the Bible or not on this point, they should at least acknowledge that the Reformers did not blindly follow ecclesiastical tradition. In fact, they questioned it. In 1528, so 11 years after the church door nailing of the 95 Theses at Wittenberg, Martin Luther took up his pen in response to requests for help in defending baptism, and particularly the baptism of infants, from two anonymous Roman Catholic priests in a neighboring region, a request occasioned by the rise of Anabaptism. The work that flowed from Martin Luther's pen is entitled Concerning Rebaptism, which is the subject of this article. Luther first chastises the representatives of the Roman Catholic Church. In a sense, you yourselves are Anabaptists, for many among you rebaptize in Latin when someone has been baptized in German, though your Pope neither does this nor teaches it. So you have your reward. You favor rebaptism so you can get plenty of Anabaptists. End quote. Man, I love Luther. He continues, God is not mocked, for he chastises the church in a manner altogether consistent with its sin. Perhaps we could also observe here that the same principle holds true today. Failing to believe the promises of God, children of believers are treated as unbelievers and left unbaptized, outside of the church. Is it shocking, then, that they grew up and continue in a state of unbelief? Taken from the British Reformed Journal, Brian Harris, Luther Concerning Rebaptism.